Good evening again. I'd like to say good evening and welcome to the 49th Annual GECAC Dinner, celebrating 54 years of community service to the greater Erie community. I must say, it's great to see such a wonderful turnout tonight. This is a Friday the 13th and a full moon, and we got Comic-Con going on. So who knows what's going to happen tonight? And again, I hope that most of you aren't superstitious. As we begin tonight's activities, I'd like to take a moment and address a question that may be on the minds of many of you. That question regarding the vitality of GECAC. I stand here to let you know that we are still in business and plan to continue to be in business of serving the greater Erie community. We continue to have over 25 active programs, which include education, training, job training, rental assistance, support for seniors, and many other services and programs to support the less fortunate. Yeah, this has certainly been a challenging year for GECAC, but we knew that the agency was 99.5% grant funded, and we knew that we had to make some changes. We had begun to identify potential social enterprises to generate unrestricted funds. However, losing Head Start after 50 years was an unexpected and disappointing turn of events. That loss has accelerated our efforts to find the necessary resources to fill some of the gaps in services. We will make changes, and we will continue our mission of eliminating poverty through empowerment, education, and community partnerships. One of the innovative ways that we assist individuals moving from poverty to self-sufficiency is through our reentry program. This program works with individuals released from federal, state, or county prison, and or people transitioning from a criminal gang lifestyle to a more law-abiding way of thinking. Over the past 3 years, in cooperation with Unified Erie, the Erie Community Foundation, and the United Way, we have seen significant success with the Reentry Initiative. The program has a 7% recidivism rate compared to a state rate of 70%. And 77% of the people who have followed the program guidelines have found employment. Right now, there's a need for funding for this program, and we're working with multiple organizations and all of our elected officials to find solutions. At this time, I would like to have the reentry staff stand along with their advisory committee just to be recognized. The war on poverty and moving others into self-efficiency is not a simple task. It is complex and must be dealt with on an individual level. It takes multiple agencies working together to meet the needs of willing parents and their children in a holistic way. We may not end poverty for all, but I guarantee you we will end poverty for some. Despite our challenges, I am very optimistic about our future, mainly because I have a great staff that care about people. It's way more than a job for them. In addition, I am overwhelmed with the continued support from the community, legislators, fellow organizations, and friends of GECAC. As I look out over this crowd, I see faces that have been around through the ups and downs of GECAC. I also see old partners, new partners, and future partners. My hope is that we will continue to have your support as we go through this challenging time of transitioning. Tonight, I especially want to thank those who took advantage of the sponsorship opportunities and benefits. Our Helping People sponsors are donors who have contributed $5,000 to our poverty fund, and we would like to thank the following organizations who are Helping People sponsors. That's UPMC Health, First National Bank. We'd also like to thank the rest of our sponsors who are listed in our dinner program and on our screen. We couldn't do this without you. Thank you for helping us give hope, empower families, and change lives. Enjoy your evening.
As you continue to enjoy your dinner, we would like to take this time to acknowledge our distinguished head table guests. As I call your name, please stand to be recognized. We request that you hold your applause until all have been acknowledged. Julie Slomsky from the Office of Governor Tom Wolf. Tim Butler from the Office of Congressman Mike Kelly. District Attorney Jack Denieri. Judge Stephanie Dmitrovich. Mayor Joe Schimber. Gary Lee from the Office of County Executive Kathy Dahlkamper. Councilman Andre Horton. Councilman Dr. Kyle Faust. Councilman Carl Anderson. Councilman Scott Rostetter. Councilman Curtis Jones. Luther and Roxanne Sewell of Talk Magazine of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Now I would like to ask all current candidates for public office to please stand and be recognized. Next on our program, we have several dignitaries who will briefly present welcoming remarks and give presentations. I want to bring up Maureen Fink to introduce Lionel Roberts, who will share with us how hard work and determination pays off.
Thank you, and good evening. Steve Jobs once said, "If you really look closely, most overnight successes took a long time." Sometimes it takes great programs and collaboration to produce opportunities, but it also takes dedication, motivation, and perseverance to be successful. And Linnell exemplifies those qualities. On behalf of Workforce Development, it is with great pleasure and honor to introduce the next guest, Ms. Linnell Roberts.
Good evening. My name is Linnell Roberts, and I'm a single mother with 3 children. Life has definitely been a struggle for me. I knew I had to make some lifestyle changes. I wanted a better life for me and my children. I started by applying for a job at Mercyhurst, which I was hired, but it wasn't enough. I contacted Housing Authority, which connected me with CareerLink. CareerLink connected me to GECAC Jumpstart program. I worked with a lady named Kathy Stearns and also Maureen. I applied for a job at UPMC Hammond as a telephone operator. Kathy made a call to the manager of that department, and a day later, I received a call to come in for an interview. Long story short, she hired me, and now I have a full-time position at UPMC Hammond with full-time benefits. That's not it. I got connected with Habitat because I wanted my own home. I worked hard and tireless, My boss and coworkers worked with me so that I was able to complete my hours for Habitat. Soon I will be graduating from the Family Self-Sufficiency Program and moving into my own house. But that's not it. I recently completed billing and coding certificate from Penn State Barron College. I could not have done it without the help from Kathy Stearns, Maureen, and the GECAC family. Courtney, Eddie, and Sabrina from Housing Authority and their staff. Alexis Carroll, Jackie Jones, my cousins who help with hours and childcare. My current boss, Teresa Oliver, and all my coworkers who also help with my hours for putting up with me through it all, and my family and friends. I appreciate everyone's help, and guess what? I'm not done. I look forward to new opportunities that God has for me, because without Him, none of this would have happened. My journey continues. And again, thank you for this opportunity to tell my part of the story.
Thank you, Linnell, for that story. I hope that sharing your story would give others the hope that with hard work and determination, their goals can be accomplished. Next, we will have the introduction of the speaker, which will be given by Representative Pat Harkins.
Good evening, everyone. It's great to be with you this evening. I'm honored to have a good friend and former colleague with us this evening, H. William Deweese. We call him Sweet William in the house. Mr. Deweese is a proud graduate of Wake Forest University with a Bachelor of Arts degree in history. On his graduation day from Wake Forest, Mr. Deweese joined the United States Marine Corps and rose to the rank of First Lieutenant. Following 3 years of military service, Deweese decided to continue to serve his country in a political arena and was sworn in as a member of the Pennsylvania House of Representatives on May 10, 1976. Bill was the prime sponsor of legislation which designated part of the grounds of the state capitol as Soldiers Grove, which was a designated war memorial in honor of veterans from all major American conflicts. Additionally, in 1992, Deweese was the co-sponsor of legislation that required health insurance companies in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania to cover child immunization costs. Deweese was appointed as the chairman of the Judiciary Committee, elected to the leadership positions of Democratic Whip, and elevated to the Democratic leader, and eventually became the 135th Pennsylvania Speaker of the House of Representatives. Mr. Deweese was incarcerated by the Department of Corrections for 23 months on the charge that his staff was campaigning in the Capitol building during the workday. As an aside, the person that initiated this was running for governor as a sitting attorney general and was doing the same that I witnessed. He was the only public official in the state history to be incarcerated in a state penitentiary for this particular charge. Currently, Mr. Deweese works as a volunteer with the Pennsylvania Prison Society, as well as the political consultant for organized labor. With that out of the way, now on to, with the official formal stuff out of the way, now let me tell you about my good friend Bill Deweese. Almost 14 years ago, I was elected to my House seat in the 1st District in Erie. The first week of orientation, I had to go in and meet with Bill. I walk in, and there he is sitting on a green blow-up ball. I thought, oh boy, this is going to be interesting. We had scheduled a 15-minute meeting, and we lasted for almost an hour and a half. We talked about everything under the sun, everything Erie, everything that I had gone through, my family, my wife, and my kids, what ambitions I had, and how the hell I got from a UPS truck into a House of the Representatives. I still don't understand that one. We spoke for almost an hour, like I said, and we have been friends since that time. And I've relied on Sweet William's sage advice over the years, and he's never steered me wrong. He's gotten to know my wife and kids, and I'll always remember back about 10 years ago, I had my sons with me during the budget process that lasted all summer long. They were guest pages on the House floor, and they spent a lot of time with Bill. And the following week, when we wrapped the budget up and we were home, I noticed my son Pat sitting in his room with a thesaurus and a dictionary. Very uncommon for him, especially in the summertime. I knew report cards weren't coming up, so I asked him, "What's this all about?" He said, "Well," quote, "Bill DeWeese told me that if I learn a new word every day and I learn to use it in a sentence properly, that my potential was endless and I could do anything." End of quote. I smiled and I thought about that, and I remind Pat of that occasionally. Those are the kind of things that Bill does that people don't see. I feel very fortunate to have known Bill and his better half, Senator Cameron Bartolotta, who's with us this evening. Senator, if you would. I trust that you will enjoy his talk, and I also want to thank Danny Jones for making this possible, along with everyone from the GECAC team. We met a couple weeks ago when Bill and Cameron were in Erie, and it was a brief meeting, but it was a great meeting. Thank you also to my wife, Michelle, who's here this evening, if you would. Thank you for helping me to do the job that I truly love. And finally, thanks to Chris Rush and her husband, Greg, who are with us this evening. Both of you, please. For all their hard work in making this a memorable evening. Please give a warm GECAC welcome to my great friend and former colleague, Sweet William DeWeese.
Thank God they didn't call me Sweet William in the penitentiary. So the old Chevy pickup truck was rambling along a township road, rural setting. It came down to the end of the road and came on the main drag in Waynesburg, PA, little town of 4,500 folks, nestled cheek by jowl against the West Virginia border. I'd been out of the jug for 15 days, and it was my birthday. I was elated. My truck had 200,000 miles, but the chipmunks and the squirrels ate through the wiring, so it took me a couple weeks to get it back in service, and I took it down to Jerry Cook. Jerry Cook would be on the Broadway stage if you wanted to see the manifestation, the unalloyed quintessence of a good old boy. Big old Jerry said, "Bill, where you been?" I said, "Well, hell, I've been in the penitentiary a couple years." He said, "It's your birthday." He says, "I'm going to give you a free truck car wash." So this is the best car wash, truck wash in Western PA. And pretty soon, it's a weekday, it's in the morning, I'm the only one there. It's a Chevy Silverado, 4 or 5 years old. These kids, there's 5 kids, youngsters, 18, 19, 20, 21. They're climbing all over the truck. It's a free car wash. I'm very happy. Jerry said, "Hey, have you seen Mark Jenkins lately?" I said, "Yeah, I see Mark all the time." These kids said, "Well, what do you see Mark for?" And it was almost like a chorus. And I said, "Well, he's my parole officer." 5 kids two of them in the back of the truck, one in the front seat, one in the back seat, and one on the hood. Says, well, he's our parole officer too. Reverend clergy, Danny Jones, elected officials. I used to be an elected official. Pretty tough with 5 felony counts, but anyway. I am so happy to have made the peregrination to Presque Isle. I always like alliteration, and peregrination and Presque Isle seem to serve the purpose. I was here several weeks ago, and we rode the bicycles along Presque Isle. I've been here many, many times over my 3.5 decades in public life, 35 years, 11 months, 14 days before Corbett put me in handcuffs. And I love the Mediterranean euphony of so many of your names. Italo Capabianca, Linda Bebco Jones, Florenda and Vicky. Lou Tullio, I'm old enough that I served with Lou Tullio. I know, I was talking to Fiore Leone, speaking of beautiful names, a little while ago and congratulated him on his public service, and I said, hell, Lou Tullio and I were running Pennsylvania when you were in high school. But I guess that is a manifestation of hyperbole that Bill DeWeese is either blessed with or cursed with. Marissa Vacchio, Benny Dombrowski, and a plain old name like Bill DeWeese, Tom Ridge, who I got along with very well. I was the minority leader of the state legislature for 8 years while Tom was the governor, and we had a strong, favorable, forward-looking relationship. But I served 686 days in a Pennsylvania medium security state penitentiary, $45,000 a year to house the average inmate, $60,000 a year if you're over the age of 50, and obviously I was. So $120,000 of your taxpayers' contributions allow that big door to slam shut at the Dauphin County Jail. When I walked into the prison yard, there was a scrum of reporters, 6 men, no women at that day, but I knew them all. Pittsburgh Post-Gazette, Philadelphia Inquirer, several of the stations put that microphone right in my face and said, Mr. DeWeese, you have anything to say? I said, yeah, 30 seconds. 30 seconds. And I looked that camera right in the eye like I'm looking at Danny Jones. I said, I'm going to comport with the protocols of the institution. I'm going to get in tip-top physical condition. And I'm going to make new friends. Now, if you'll excuse me. On the way up, my fiancée, inexplicable duo, I'm a liberal Democrat, she's a moderate Republican, Senator Camera Bartolotta. I like that name too, especially like to hear myself say that name, Camera Bartolotta. We were discussing solitary confinement. I was only in solitary confinement my initial night, protective custody. I said, I don't want to be in protective custody. Well, they told me in coarse terminology that that's what was going to be the case. And then I remembered something that I used in public life a lot, especially at the microphone. The first Jewish politician to become the Prime Minister of England was named Benjamin Disraeli. And Disraeli said that despair is the conclusion of a fool. And I think that Tyshawn and Antonio, who I met earlier tonight, would agree with me that despair is the conclusion of a fool. So when I went into that big state prison at Camp Hill, that was my ethos. Now, what led up to that? My comments tonight are going to be somewhat abbreviated. Lincoln did the Gettysburg Address in 2.5 minutes. I'm not going to belabor my indulgence and love for the microphone. But I'm going to talk about 3 things quickly. 1, what led me there. 2, what happened there. And three, and most importantly, especially for Tyshawn and Antonio and anybody that's coming out and trying to re-enter, but especially important for society at large, to consider our challenges collectively and what would be the case if we don't gird our loins to the challenge. And GECAC is quintessentially positioned to do just that. But what got me there is number one. After 1,821 days, Mr. Corbett and I had clashed. He finally charged me with having my campaign work done in the Capitol building. As is the case in the prosecutorial world, and I'm sure we have some people here who have served in that capacity, it's sometimes, if not always, very convenient to pile up charges. So theft of services was the charge, but since Mary Smith, I make that name up, took a check, they got me for theft by unlawful taking. And then since Mary didn't tell the state treasurer that she was a crook, they got us for theft by deception. And since I talked to Mary Smith, obviously they got me for conspiracy. And by the way, they elevated the State Ethics Act misdemeanor up to State Ethics Act felony. So I had 5 felonies. They offered me a plea bargain. I said, no, you go fly a kite. They said, no, you go fly a kite, but that was not the F word that was used. They interviewed over 110 of our people. At that time, I was privileged to be involved, as Pat has alluded, with 105 Democrats. We had over 800 staff. They brought them in. In the meantime, I was blessed to win 3 elections during those 1,800 days, 2 primaries and a general. If you represent 60,000 people, that was very, very gratifying. I had 43 witnesses. My lawyer said, we got a good shot at this. How'd that work out for you, Bill? I had a prison guard who's going to testify for me. I had a Secret Service agent on active duty. He got permission to come up away from George Bush at that time. And I had a Vietnam vet, and I had a volunteer fireman. I had 43 people who were going to come in here and help me out. Well, the trial ended abruptly after 8 people testified against me, 8 of my best friends. Well, I hired them all. And believe it or not, I'm a happy guy. Despair is the conclusion of a fool. I wasn't in any despair. And I've had lunch, breakfast, dinner, or coffee with 7 out of the 8 people that testified against me in the last 5 years. And you know what? That's a good thing. But we had 43 to 8. How am I going to lose? Well, judge said after my first 8, well, they got 8, you got 8, trial's over. Boom. Pre-sentence, sentence, report to the DOC. Point number 2 out of 3, because I want to keep this thing rolling. Point number 2, if you've forgotten, was how I got there. Now, this is how it is when I was there. Now, I'm not going to sing it to you. And I was telling Tyshawn, I don't think he believed me, but I wrote a rap song when I was in the penitentiary. If all of my appellate work was concluded and there were no reverend clergy in the room, I'd sing it to you. But I will sing you one little series of 4 lines that give you a graphic idea, and this is dedicated to my friends in the front, far right. My little hut was 12 by 8, a shitter, a bunk, and a cardboard crate, a metal desk that was bolted to the floor, and a wire mesh window and a big steel door. It goes on for 2 minutes. It's not bad. They called me the cracker rapper. So I arrive on the scene, and this young fella, God bless him, he got dreads down to here, 6-pack, big smile. Mr. Bill, you be the crooked congressman? Well, that's about the same time Jerry Sandusky got locked up. He says, yep, that's me. I'm the crooked congressman. He said, you ain't no Jimmy Hoffa, but you're the closest thing we have to a celebrity down on B Block. He said, and again, I don't know that I'll ever be invited back, but he used to say, you're the happiest so-and-so in this whole so-and-so prison. And he'd say, where'd you bury the money, Mr. Bill? And then he'd say, we know you stole all that money from the Capitol building. Everybody on B Block knows that. Trying to give you some texture of life behind that razor wire. Christmas time, 2012. Visitors, cavity check, full body search. Just me and the guard. There's a cobwebbed old radio. Looks like you could listen to Bill Mazeroski hit that home run in 1960 on it. All kinds of dust and grit. I'm like this, and it's Christmas, a couple days before, and all of a sudden, the late, great Burl Ives was singing, We Wish You a Merry Christmas. And if you ever get a song like that in the middle of a strip search, it's an unusual and unforgettable circumstance. About 20 feet away from me, there was a state trooper who was doing life for murdering a dentist down in Indiana County. He was having a love affair with his paramour, who was still married to the dentist, et cetera, et cetera. Alberto had shoulders like this, and his whole back was two big tattoos, one of Jesus Christ and one of the Virgin Mary. And I can't remember for sure, but there was an American flag out of one and a Puerto Rican flag out of the other. And I said, Alberto, how'd you get in here? Because he was doing 20 to 40. He said, Mr. Bill, I kills the drug dealer that came to kill me. Now, I was in there for allegedly campaigning on government hours. And I was a rather unusual character because of the 1,200 men I was with. I never saw another white-collar person in there. But because of a voting record of 35 years, 11 months, and 14 days that paralleled the Black Caucus in Pittsburgh and Philadelphia, a voting record that Michael Eric Dyson would approve of, I was treated very, very well by youngsters that in so many cases had never really had a chance. I had had the American dream. My mom and dad had just gone to high school, then gone to World War II. Dad worked in a mill. My mom did hair. Dad stole cars. Car dealer, politician. But 70 to 80% of the youngsters that I was with, and if you're in your middle 60s, they're all youngsters. There might have been 20 folks in that compound older than I was. But 75 to 80% of these kids did not have a GED. They had a drug problem. They had an alcohol problem. They had been neglected. Some had been abused. They were invariably nice to Mr. Bill for 23 consecutive months. And although I'd been a liberal and I'd had a good voting record and I'd been on the right side of the issues, I thought. In fact, I'd been helpful to the Pennsylvania Prison Society in Philadelphia, founded by Benjamin Franklin in 1787, the oldest human rights organization in our nation, the Pennsylvania Prison Society. But did I care viscerally? No. I cared intellectually, but it wasn't existential. It is now. And it was from the day that big steel door slammed shut. We have to do more in our state, and we have to do more in our nation. But for us here in Erie County, the effort to have GECAC help in reentry is so important. And for Representative Pat Harkins and his colleagues, Rep. Mirsky, Rep. Bizzarro, Rep. Sonny, and Senator Laughlin. It's imperative that they realize that we need a continual funding stream for services to help these youngsters when they get out, or these young middle-aged men and women when they get out. And it's also important to an incalculable degree that the state fund programs inside the fence. While I was there for 23 months, and right before I got there, they closed the greenhouse program. They closed the culinary program. Youngsters who could have worked here tonight in the kitchen and gotten a foot ahead for a future. They closed the music school and they closed the body shop. 4 schools in one facility within several months. No money. We are spending so much money to incarcerate. We have 330 million people in the United States of America, and 70 million are on paper. I didn't know what on paper meant till I got on paper, but they've had a problem of some kind. This is a big, big problem, and there are ways to reform it, and that brings me to my third and final point. Danny said he'd give me a couple extra minutes if I really needed it. I think you have to live in a constant state of gratitude. And I do. The salad I ate tonight, and my colleagues can tell you, salads are rare in a penitentiary. A pillow, clean sheets on a regular basis. So many things that I took for granted that I no longer take for granted. The great American writer Scott Fitzgerald said, "There are no second acts in American life." I disagree. I think there are second acts and third acts and fourth acts. And I think Linnell Roberts, and I don't have my glasses on, she is manifest evidence of a second act and a third act and a fourth act that will continue. But she has had help from GECAC. Antonio and Tyshawn have had help from GECAC. This is a vital, strong, breathing, animated, substantive organization that you are a part of tonight and that you are helping tonight. And I laud that enthusiasm. You know, we're not alone. We're not alone. We're on the cusp of something very special. The NAACP and Newt Gingrich, believe it or not, agree on this. The Koch brothers, and the one surviving Koch brother, agrees with Van Jones and the ACLU. One of the premier subjects in American political dialogue from coast to coast, Seattle to Sarasota and back, is prison reform, judicial reform, and a fight against mass incarceration of young men and women of color. Texas, Louisiana, and Georgia are ahead of Pennsylvania, and we must inspire the men and women in the legislature to move forward quickly and strongly to catch up. It's amazing. No one would have ever thought that Texas, Louisiana, and Georgia were ahead of the Keystone State when it came to progressive reform. We're working on Ban the Box. When I got out of prison, I went to see my apartment lease person, and I'd been there for 12 years. Of course, I was blessed. I had a job. I never missed paying my rent. He said, "I'm sorry, Mr. DeWeese, you're a convicted felon. You're not allowed to live here anymore." Marine lieutenant, Speaker of the House, bullshit, they didn't care. I was a convicted felon. And guess what? I had all the privileges of middle-class America. And so many of the men and women that are challenged by incarceration, challenged by reentry, did not have the many blessings and gifts that I had even upon reentry. So I will continue to go forward. I will continue to work on parole reform. I will continue to try to have Governor Wolf and his team look closely at life in prison without parole, because I think there are only 15 states out of the 50 that do not even have a chance for a life sentence to get a parole hearing. If you were 18 years old and now you're 48 or 58 and you cannot get a hearing, I just think that's fundamentally wrong. You need to get a hearing, and life without parole needs to be looked at again. So I'll keep working for the Pennsylvania Prison Society. I'll keep on visiting prisons. I was down at Graterford, then I went down to Phoenix, then I went down to SCI Green, which is not a big trip for me. It's right across the street. Then I went up to SCI Smithfield, and we will be going back to SCI Chester for the second time very soon. I want to thank you again to the GECAC team, especially to Danny, and I am very happy that I was able to keep in touch with Sheila Silman over the past few weeks so I could get more texture and more definition as to what kind of comments would be appropriate tonight. She wrote this speech, by the way. I'd like to give my commendation to the Erie County United Way, the Erie Community Foundation, and end it by offering one or two last observations. Everyone has a crisis. Tyshawn and Antonio, you never believed I was going to mention your name 4 times. Bill DeWeese, we had a crisis. Well, I had 2. My old lady ran off 20 years ago with a bartender, but anyway. Who cares if I get invited back? I care. I'd love to be invited back. But if you're not in a crisis right now, you've been in one, or unfortunately, you're going to be in one. The United States Marine Corps has a motto, Semper Fidelis, always, always faithful. Well, they have an informal motto, too, and it's not inappropriate. Adapt, improvise, overcome. Anybody in this room that was in boot camp, Marine Corps boot camp, heard that. So that's what we're going to do, I hope, in GECAC. I hope that's what we're going to do individually and collectively. Adapt, improvise, and overcome. And I'm going to give you 4 lines of poetry as I leave the dais. And anyone that was locked up, or anyone that even thinks about us being locked up, can appreciate the metaphorical significance of these 4 lines. Picture yourself in Spain, a big bullfight in a big arena. I know that's a stretch for this speech, but that's the way it's going to end. Bullfight critics ranked in rows, crowd the enormous plaza full. But only one is there who knows, and he's the one that fights the bull. Despair is the conclusion of a fool. Don't despair. Fight the bull. Thank you.
Let's give Mr. DeWeese another round of applause, please. Again, thank you for sharing your story with us, sir. We will continue on in our program with the presentation of awards, beginning with the R. Benjamin Wiley Walter L. Osborne Memorial Scholarship Awards, which will be presented by Nicole Johnson and Carolyn Geist, followed by the Charles Killinger Award, which will be presented by our Aging Division Manager, Matt Trott, and the Aging Advisory Committee Chair, Hattie Johnson. And to conclude, with the R. Benjamin Wiley Spirit of GECAC Award, which will be presented by our CEO, Danny Jones.
Good evening. It is our pleasure to present this year's student recipients of the R. Benjamin Wiley and Walter L. Osborne Memorial Scholarship Award in memory of these two leaders and advocates for the higher education of young people. This is made possible by the community and local businesses through generous donations of all amounts at every level. This year, our golf tournament held this year in July, they raised approximately $24,800. And so therefore, we recognize and extend a thank you to who all contributed, allowing us to increase the number of students this year from last year to receive a scholarship. So we are happy to say that we have 4 college-bound students, and we have 2 who are currently enrolled in college to award this year. So with that being said, I'm happy to introduce Carolyn Geist. She's my fellow scholarship committee member and also our upper bound academic counselor as well, so thank you.
Good evening. In the category for high school students, this year's first out of our recipients is Dajane James. Dajane graduated from Northwest Pennsylvania Collegiate Academy with a GPA of 4.24. Dajane is a first-year college student attending Gannon University. Her major is physician assistant. Our second recipient is Cameron McCollum. Cameron is also a graduate of Northwest Pennsylvania Collegiate Academy with a GPA of 4.085. She's a first-year college student attending Gannon University, and her major is pre-med in biology. This year's third recipient is Seth Myers. Seth is a graduate of General McLean High School with a GPA of 4.239. He is a first-year college student attending Penn State Behrend. Seth's major is interdisciplinary business with engineering studies. Our fourth recipient is Shelby Wiley Jr. Shelby is a graduate of Cathedral Prep with a GPA of 3.56. He's a first-year college student attending Gannon, and Shelby's major is business. He's also the proud grandson of the late R. Benjamin Wiley. Okay, in the category of college students, our fifth recipient is Miriam Al-Kafaji. She is currently attending Gannon with a major in respiratory care. And our final recipient is Dominique Booker. She is also currently attending Gannon University, and her major is in finance and accounting.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and distinguished guests. The Charles B. Killinger Award has been presented since 1992, is awarded each year to someone who has displayed exemplary advocacy and volunteer effective effort on behalf of older Pennsylvanians. Mr. Killinger, Charlie, has dedicated his life to providing service for others, particularly seniors. The GECAC Area Agency on Council successfully has chosen someone this year who displayed the same effort, advocacy, volunteerism, and working with seniors as did Mr. Killinger. More than 80 applications were sent to various agencies and individual persons for the purpose of this selection. Matt?
I get the honor of giving you some of the background of this year's Killinger Award winner. He was born in Erie and earned a bachelor's degree in social work from Gannon University. How many Gannon alums in the house? How many soon-to-be Gannon alums in the house? He has a master's degree in gerontology from Edinburgh University. How many Fighting Scots in the house? He has initiated, developed, and assisted many efforts to enhance the lives of older adults in Erie community and throughout the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. He's involved in the development of St. Mary's Home Adult Day Program. He was involved in St. Vincent Hospital's Senior Source Program. He assisted in establishing many of the senior health fairs that we have today, Senior Sundays, Senior Zoo Day, and the popular Guide to Services published each year by the Independent Council on Aging, which is still very popular today. This year's recipient was voted Member of the Year for the Independent Council on Aging in the year 2000, as the turn of the century. He served for many years on the Pennsylvania Council on Aging, which is appointed by the Governor of Pennsylvania. Our 2019 awardee developed Alliance Rehab Healthcare Ventures Alliance, HVA Therapy, company back in 1997. That company has expanded throughout Pennsylvania and now employs, it's a multi-million-dollar company employing over 300 people. This alliance of locally governed senior living communities helps Northwestern Pennsylvanians through every stage of life's encore. You may already know many of the Alliance members entrusted. They're Brevalier Village, Asbury Spring Hill, Presbyterian Senior Care Network, Sarah Reed, St. Mary's Home of Erie, St. Paul's Continuing Care Community in Greenville, Westbury and Meadville, and WRC in Brookville. He created HVA Nurses Aid Training Program that has graduated over 3,000 nurses since the year 2000. He developed HVA Share Care Homes designed to provide safe community homes and supports for those in need. His leadership is evident in several civic and cultural ventures, including a lot of work now with the Fairview Historical Society, with many ventures with the arts, as well as his own expert photography. So as CEO of Gallagher Geriatric Care Management, he has been the guardian, personal, or power of attorney, or trustee for over 100 individuals since 1996 in need. Michael's insights and expertise has been relied upon in ongoing efforts to create and maximize programs to serve older adults. Through his passion and dedication, Michael has remained an advocate for older adults in his activities and throughout the community. At this time, join me in giving a GECAC and Erie Agency on Aging Advisory Council warm welcome and congratulations in presenting the 2019 Charles B. Killinger Award to lifelong advocate for older adults, Michael Gallagher.
You know, I've been trembling up here since Bill DeWeese got off the stage up here. He's making it very hard for everybody else to come up here. I don't have any stories like he does either, so I'm just kind of boring right now. All right. How do you describe Fiore Leon? Well, he's a graduate of Erie Technical High School. He's a graduate of the University of Pittsburgh. He's been a sales manager, business owner, and a consultant. He's an Army veteran that served in occupied Germany during the Korean War. And he's married to his lovely wife, Diane, for 52 years. Most of us know him as Erie County Councilman Leon, who has served for 42 years. Over time, Fiore has received numerous awards during his tenure. He is the longest tenured county councilman or county commissioner in the entire Commonwealth. Mr. Leon has been instrumental in projects that continue to be critical to the health and well-being of his county's residents and visitors, such as construction of the Erie County Library, the county prison, the public safety building, the Bayfront Convention Center, and the Sheraton Hotel. Mr. Leon has served 9 times as chair of Erie County Council, served as a member of the Board of Elections, and also as chair many times since 1979. A member and chair of the County Nursing Facilities Board of Trustees since '79, and a liaison to the Erie Regional Chamber of Commerce, the Industrial Development Authority, courts and court-related offices, and the City and County Gaming Authority, and as chairman of the Retired Board of Erie County for 35 of his 42 years. The pension has more than doubled in value in the last 10. Chairman Leon has taken his talent and dedication to the state level. Throughout his career, he has been active in GECAC, that's the County Commissioners Association of Pennsylvania, including years as chair of the County Governor's Policy Committee. He has also represented county government on the Governor's Local Government Advisory Commission under the DCED. In 2019, Governor Wolf honored Mr. Leon with the Governor's Award for Local Government Excellence, and the County Commissioners Association of Pennsylvania honors Mr. Leon with 2019 Outstanding Council Member Commissioners Award at his annual conference and trade show in August. Tonight, it is my honor, it's my privilege to present Mr. Leon, Fiore Leon, with the R. Benjamin Wiley Spirit of GECAC Award, who's been a lifelong friend of GECAC and of mine. Thank you. And the plaque reads, 49th Annual Dinner, R. Benjamin Wiley Memorial, exemplifying the vision of GECAC, presented to Fiore Leon for commitment to the GECAC family.
Thank you, Dan. Let me make a couple of comments.
Go ahead. Sure.
Thank you. I appreciate the award. You know, sometimes you wonder whether you're worthy of any such award. I know that it's tough to follow somebody like Bill DeWeese. And by the way, Bill, you know, you mentioned Lou Tullio. I was with Lou Tullio when he was the board secretary of the Erie School District, okay? A little while longer than you probably knew him. And I also met one of your inmates. He said to me, you know, you said you weren't known as Sweet Bill, but he says, oh yeah, he says, he was really Sweet Bill in the pen. And he said to me, he said, you'd know right away who he was when I mentioned his name. His nickname was Bubba. Anyway, why, you know, it's difficult, like I said, to follow someone like DeWeese. And one of the issues that he brought up was a reentry program in the prison. I think he's quite right in what he's saying that. And one of my colleagues, and by the way, I'd like to recognize all of the colleagues that are here. I'd like to recognize Dr. Faust, Carl Anderson, Scott, also Andre, and I don't know who else. Did I miss any one of them? No, I guess not. But anyway, the person that I give much credit to as far as the reentry program is concerned is Andre Horton. I think he's been on that for quite a period of time. And I'd like to stand up. Please, Andre, stand up. I think you should give him a great hand. He's been working hard as far as the reentry program is concerned, and he's been working hard as far as anything is concerned where the prison is concerned, Bill. Anyway, you know, they say, what is the spirit of a GECAC? Well, GECAC is not a black or a white issue. GECAC services people, and the social services that GECAC provides are second to none. I was kind of disappointed that I saw
In fact, I was very disappointed when I had heard that they lost the Head Start program. After 50 years with the Head Start program, it's difficult for me to understand how that could be taken away from them. But anyway, GECAC, I do believe, will survive no matter what. They're going to go on in the future no matter what happens as far as that program is concerned. And when I mention that I say it's not a black or a white program, I mean that seriously. I think the people that have supported GECAC and GECAC itself has come together as a community in itself. It's a community that helps people. It's a community that helps those that can least help themselves. I equate that to an issue like they have in the County Commissioners Association of Pennsylvania. The County Commissioners Association of Pennsylvania, once they get there, they leave their party affiliation out. It's no longer a red or blue as far as the state itself is concerned. It's what you're doing for the people that you've elected to help. And I think that's the issue that we've lost as far as politics is concerned. We've lost that. And it's unfortunate because we've lost it not only probably even in some areas of our own here in the community, but I think it's more so in the state and also in the federal government. Who wants to listen to people arguing about each issue? In fact, I watched now some of the debates for the president. It's all backbiting issues. I think it's ridiculous, and I really believe that we have to make some changes. We have to make changes that will no longer say we're either a Democrat or a Republican. We're people. We're a person. And we need to elect those that are going to carry that issue on. I don't have much else to say. I think somebody asked me, what are you going to say when you get up there? I said, I don't know. I'll let you know when I get there. But again, I appreciate listening to Bill. I had a good laugh with him, and I would hope that I would be able to make people laugh, but I can't do it like you do, Bill. But like I said, Bubba will talk to you anyway when he gets your phone number. I'm going to give him your phone number, Bill. Again, I want to thank everybody. I do have a proclamation for GECAC. I'm not going to read it. That proclamation is from the County Council of the County of Erie. I want to thank you very much, and thank you for this particular award. Thank you.
While we take this picture, could I ask Gary Lee and Curtis Jones to come up to the stage?
Good evening, everyone. On behalf of the county executive and the county administration and the entire Erie County, we are extremely appreciative for Councilman Leon for his dedication. 42 years is a very, very long time. And we've had the privilege of working with Councilman Fiore Leon for 6 years, our administration. And we don't always agree about things, but I can tell you one thing. Fiore has the passion and commitment for what is best for Erie County. And because of that, we want to present you with this citation. We're very, very appreciative of your hard work. We're appreciative of your wife and your family because you made a lot of sacrifices in going to the county council meetings, going to the special committee meetings, all the things that come with being a council person. So we thank you so much on behalf of Erie County.
Well, good evening again. This is like the 20th good evening. So one more time for me, if you would. Good evening, everyone. That was a little bit dry. I know you're tired. One more time. Good evening, everyone. Good evening. Thank you. It's an honor to be able to stand here. I am 43 years old, almost 44. So Mr. Leon has literally been in office all of my life. And it is an honor to have served with him because it's not the county and the city, but we interface often to serve the citizens that are in this part of the Commonwealth. And it's been an honor. I learned some things from him. I don't know if he'll remember this. There were some challenging times, and we're trying to create new things around airports and readjusting things. And I think one of the things I heard him say is, there's a golden rule. He who has the gold rules. Now, what was interesting about that is at first I was offended, but then I realized it's a whole nother game when you understand how to use the resources you have to effectively make the change that's necessary. And so those are lessons and so many more that you've taught me from a distance. I'm standing here as a member of City Council, representing the other 6 members of the City Council of the City of Erie. Again, wanting to thank you for your service and example in many ways of how to be a statesman as an elected official in Erie County and throughout this Commonwealth. Other council members, I know Mr. Mel Witherspoon is here, as well as a city council member. I'm not sure if there are any other council members here. I'm not sure how all of this works out, but our mayor is here, Mayor Schimber. Mayor, would you please? I don't know if I'm taking too much point of privilege, but you are the executive of the city, and so you want to also recognize that. And this represents not only city council, but the appreciation for the city for your service. So I won't read this. I will just thank you on behalf of the citizens of the city of Erie and those of us who are elected I'll put it this way. A lot of people do things, but not everyone does things well. And so we appreciate you for doing and for giving and for serving well our Erie County community. Thank you. Hold on, let me get right. Want to hold the proclamation?
As we mentioned earlier, for GECAC to be able to survive as we go forward in the future, we must find ways of generating unrestricted funds to help us out. At this time, I'd like to have Ms. Kim McCaslin come up and talk about our giving opportunities.
I'm not going to say good evening, I'm going to say hi. Is that a little different? We at GECAC believe change in people is possible. We see it every day as the men and women in our programs work to further their educations, learn and heal past mistakes, and make plans for a better future. GECAC's mission is to eliminate poverty in Erie County. We all know that incarceration and poverty are interconnected. As you know, and you've already heard tonight, that GECAC has partnered with Unified Erie to run the reentry program known as the Erie County Reentry Services and Support Alliance. Tonight, we are going to give you the opportunity to show your support for this vital program, a program that has real data to show its success. And Sweet Bill DeWeese talked about that a little bit. Doesn't that name just roll off your tongue? Sweet Danny Jones. I don't know if that's quite the same. I just wanted to try it. But let me remind you of a few of those successes. Only 7% of the people in our program return to prison. Compare that to 41% across the nation. 77% of the men and women in our program have gotten jobs. That is absolutely incredible. And all of this at a cost of just $12 a day versus taxpayers paying $95 per day to house inmates in prison. So please, Show your support tonight by making a donation to our reentry program. And we have made it very easy for you. All you have to do is pull out your credit card. Let me have a show of hands. Who has a credit card here tonight? I can't believe people aren't going to fess up to that. All you have to do is pull out your credit card and dip it into GECAC's dip jar. That should be up on the screen right now. That's what it looks like. Your donation will be automatically charged to your card. You don't have to enter any information or sign anything. Just simply dip. As you leave this evening, our dip jar will be located in the lobby. Please dip your credit card and show our community that you support the work of the Erie County Reentry Services and Support Alliance. Thank you.
Okay, we're heading into the final stretch here. Our goal was to beat our 9 o'clock time. It has been typical, and I think we're going to be well ahead of that, so fantastic. No, Bill cannot come back up. After we close up, he can have the mic all he wants. At this time, I'd like to do a couple acknowledgments. First, since Pat set this trend, I'd like to ask my wife, Angela, to please stand up for a second to be recognized. For all of you in community service and volunteer service, you know it's the person who stays behind and takes care of those things that makes you able to do the things that you do out there. So I truly appreciate my wife. I would also like to acknowledge the GECAC staff, Board of Directors, and Area Agency on Aging Advisory Committee. Could I ask those folks to please stand? I have very shy staff. I don't know what's wrong with them. They're just shy. On behalf of the GECAC Board of Directors, staff and I would like to extend our sincere appreciation to all of you who participated in supporting our 40th annual dinner and our 54th year of service. I'm going to turn the rest of the program over to our MC, and I wish you all a good night.
Well, it has been a pleasure to be your MC for GECAC's 49th annual dinner. Following our benediction by Pastor Sonny Concepcion, please stay and enjoy Erie's new and upcoming live band, Sadojale. Again, I am Roshani Goodwine, and thank you for your continued support of the Greater Erie Community Action Committee as we commit to helping people and changing lives.
I am no Sonny Concepcion, but I do have the great privilege of not only being an elected official, but also the responsibility and honor to be a pastor in this community. So it's my privilege to share the benediction tonight. Again, GECAC, thank you. Mr. Jones, he's the older Mr. Jones. Let's give them a round of applause again tonight. If you would, and you're comfortable to do this with us, bow your heads for a brief moment of prayer. Kind and gracious Spirit, again, we say thank you for another day, another opportunity, another gift, and another responsibility to do well in the community where you've placed us. We thank you for tonight and the celebration that has been the 49th year of GECAC's dinner. We thank you for our guest speaker who was able to bring to light certain arenas and certain areas where we need to improve in our community. Now, God, as we leave this place, we ask that we never leave your presence and that we never leave the same way that we came in. So empower us, equip us, inspire us, and give us the courage to do what's never been done if that's what is now what needs to be done. We thank you finally for helping us to understand that strength, courage, creativity is not weighed and not established in easy times, but it is weighed, established, and measured accurately in the challenging times. So where we find ourselves, give us the strength and the grace to be our best selves and to represent you and to serve those who you've called us to serve well. In the name of Jesus, in the name of the Most High, and we thank you for that. Let's say amen together tonight. Amen. Just greet somebody. I know we're going, it's not church, but just greet somebody that you didn't come with. Just say hello and get on the dance floor. Let's have a good time tonight.